In this video, we'll look at what sets France apart from other nations, what is a Texas two-step, and at the intractability of emotional and physical pain. Welcome to the channel. French conundrum. The most famous thing about France is the Eiffel Tower. Perhaps the second most famous thing about France is that it gets 70% of its electricity from nuclear power. No other developed nation comes close. France's 56 reactors, which make it the largest atomic nation by capacity after the US, produce 70% of its electricity and explain why the country boasts a fraction of Germany's carbon emissions, reports Financial Times. In fact, among all the advanced economies, France has the lowest carbon emissions, thanks to the nuclear power industry. If you want to compare Germany and France, 1 kilowatt of energy you produce in France is 6 times less carbon intensive than the equivalent in Germany. Says Fatih Birol, executive director of the International Energy Agency. But all is not rainbows and sunshine, as these reactors need very expensive major upgrades very soon. Here's FT again. About €49 billion by 2025 has been earmarked to extend their working life, and Macron, the French president, has yet to commit to any new reactor, besides the one EDF, the state-owned group, is building in Flamanville, in the northwest. The other key concern that some critics of nuclear power have is regarding its risk and full cost. Japan's Fukushima nuclear disaster shook faith in the industry and caused Germany to speed up the closure of its plants, says FT. With the elections a year away, the French people are divided right down the middle on the question of nuclear power. A recent poll found that half of those polled considered nuclear power an environmental threat, while 47% felt it to be an opportunity. So, Emmanuel Macron has decided to not invite trouble earlier than is absolutely necessary, postponing the decision on new reactors to 2023, at the latest, when the much-delayed next-generation European pressurized reactor is expected to come online in Flamanville. J&J and the Texas two-step. Being big makes you a target. This is a simplification which sounds catchy, feels wrong, but is mostly accurate. For example, if you are a big company, you'll be doing many things. Sometimes some of those things may have poor outcomes even when you may not have planned it like that. Anyway, J&J is being sued for causing cancer. While that is in fact old news, what is new is the way they are trying to deal with it. Here's Reuters reporting on the latest. Johnson & Johnson is exploring a plan to offload liabilities from widespread baby powder litigation into a newly created business that would then seek bankruptcy protection, according to 7 people familiar with the matter. During settlement discussions, one of the healthcare conglomerate's attorneys has told plaintiffs' lawyers that J&J could pursue the bankruptcy plan, which could result in lower payouts for cases that do not settle beforehand, some of the people said. Plaintiffs' lawyers would initially be unable to stop J&J from taking such a step, though could pursue legal avenues to challenge it later. J&J is now considering using Texas's divisive merger law, which allows a company to split into at least 2 entities. For J&J, that could create a new entity housing talc liabilities that would then file for bankruptcy to halt litigation, some of the people said. The maneuver is known among legal experts as a Texas two-step bankruptcy, a strategy other companies facing asbestos litigation have used in recent years. Pain. Physical pain obliterates all psychological content, painful, pleasurable and neutral. It destroys person's self and the world, writes Elaine Scarry, in her book The Body in Pain. Maura Kelly reminisces about the loss of her parents in a recent New York Times write-up. Losing a parent can be one of the most emotionally jarring of experiences. Writing about it, perhaps even making some content around it, can provide an outlet, which is a good thing. We come to know that her father suffered from persistent gastric pain and discomfort for years, and that, in the end, he took his own life in the 7th decade of his existence. His health problems surfaced when my mother died, in my childhood, of cancer. He'd suffered with her through more than 4 years of treatment by then, and surely the strain was part of the reason that my 45-year-old father developed digestive disturbances that persisted for 3 decades, becoming near constant in the years before his death. The revelation comes when the author herself suffers from severe pain and is taken to the emergency department. Her ruminations are poignant. If what he endured for 30 years was anything like the writhing pain I'd experienced that morning, then no wonder he killed himself. She goes on to say by the time he reached his 70s, he was constantly, unpredictably sidelined by stomach upset or bowel trouble, which no doctor could adequately treat, or even diagnose. The intractability of his malady should have made me more concerned about him. Instead, he became the father who cried wolf. I couldn't, or didn't want to, put myself in his tormented body. To the extent that I put myself in his mind, I decided that his sickness was exacerbated by his tendency to brood. She goes on to say that, I tried to push him to change his perception. What I should have been pushing for was better medical attention for his body, in all that pain. This for me, is a takeaway which I would like to embrace and learn from. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give a like. Thank you.